Hey guys, welcome to part 3 of the Reddit clone chat application on Turbo 360. In part 2, we integrated the theme, which you can download right here, and set up the build scripts for optimizing the asset delivery. We tested the implementation on staging. We got everything working for the theme integration properly set up, and making sure everything looks accurate. So if I go to my staging server, if my localhost, excuse me, dev server, and run localhost 3000, this is what we have so far. So everything looks good. So today we're going to build out the main homepage UI for the homepage, which is going to render a list of recent sort of topics from the application. So if we look at the theme itself, so you should have that downloaded. Here's the home page from the actual theme itself. So if you don't have that downloaded, you can go here to the course page for this project and just download the theme right here, and you should have the same thing. So here is the theme for the home page itself. Now I'm going to use this page, apps, tickets, HTML, to render a list of recent posts from various rooms, recent topics. So this one might be like, who's going to win the NBA championship? The next one might be who's going to, is Trump going to win the re-election in 2020? The next one's going to be who's your favorite fashion designer? Just different like posts from various topics, different topics from various rooms, I should say. And then you should be able to click into these to see the replies. So let's go ahead and set that up. So we have our apps.tickets HTML. So let me actually just do it from here so you can just follow along exactly as I'm doing it. So I'm downloading the theme from the course page. So here it is. I'm going to put it on my desktop. Okay, here's the home page. And then apps, tickets. So we're going to use this. Okay, so go ahead and open that up in Sublime. And this is the page we're looking at. So now here, we have to make sure that this configuration conforms to the configuration we set up in the project in part 2. So if I open up the project from part 2, okay, so then here, if we look at the head tag from the theme, let me make it a little bit bigger, versus the head tag from the here in the project, we have to make sure that the actual imports match up. So here we have plugins, data tables, Bootstrap 4, Bootstrap min.css, icons.css, Metis menu CSS, style.css, and then the modernizer JS import. But here we have some data table imports from Bootstrap 4 that are not in our project. So let's see here. So plugins, data tables, data tables, All right, so let's go ahead and import these as well. So these two have to go ahead of the app CSS. So here we want to add 2 more imports. 1, 2. And everything else here is the same. And then let's check the imports down here. So we have some data tables imports. Okay, so these JavaScript imports are not identical down here as well. So we have let's see, jQuery, min, popper, bootstrap, minus menu, wave. So this is identical like we said before. Those are on every page. But here, these are unique to the page itself. And then the app is jQuery core and jQuery app down here. So then we have to create another one, another page build. So JS page dashboard. I'm going to call it JS page home. Okay, so copy and paste that. I want to call this home.min.js, home, and then home. And these are the imports unique to the home page. So we want to do plugins. One, two. And then we want to add this task to the overall build for JS. And then now that I'm looking at it, we should do the same thing for the CSS. These are specific to the home page. So what we should do is we should do a separate task just for that. And we'll call that CSS home. And then this will be like that. And then we can get rid of those two over here. Basically just splitting these up. And then what we want to do is say home.min.css and then public.dist/dist pages CSS home/CSS like that. So this directory structure should be pretty similar to the directory structure we have over here, pages dashboard.js, and then there's going to be another one for home, which will have a CSS and a JS directory, right? And then we want to add the CSS home script to the overall script for style. So now we're creating individual tasks or separate tasks for individual pages. So let's go ahead and run the build. So don't forget, at the end we created a separate build script. So this dist directory should go away completely. And now it's running all the scripts. And now we have a pages with the dashboard build assets and then CSS for home, as well as home.js for home, a home JS file. So now what we want to do is, let's see here, let's take the index mustache. And let's think about the best way to do this. So I'm going to temporarily put the head tag back. or no, excuse me. Let's do this instead. Let's get rid of this whole thing. Let's sort of start from scratch and then go here and take the apps hyphen tickets HTML and just copy and paste it in like we did before, right? And then let's go through this one at a time. So here we have the assets again. Let's get rid of all that and do a replace all like we did last time. We want to use a CDN here. And now these data tables are coming from the home CSS, home.main.css, right? So what we want to do is we want to do dist CSS pages home CSS home.main.css. Get rid of that, and then we want to do okay, so unfortunately the head tag isn't consistent throughout the entire theme. There are ways around that. We'll figure out how to make that a little bit more optimal, but for now let's just go with this, and then let's see, go back down here, and then we have our Jquery modules here, which is vendor.min.js. So let's cdn dist. That covers all these, and then these are going to be the home, so pages home JS, so dist pages home JS, and then home.min.js, and that covers that. And then this is the app.min.js, so dist JS app.min.js, and that covers that. And this is a script they just left behind on the actual page, so that's fine. Let's test this guy out. All right, and then we got a jQuery error here at 1271 right there. So looks like jQuery isn't being properly imported. Let's figure that guy out. Let's see. Vendor.min public dist. Okay, I'm going to make a couple adjustments here. So we have in the dist.js, we have the app and the vendor, those belong there, but the dashboard and the home do not. That's because our dashboard build script right here puts a temporary concatenated file right here on the main level, which is the wrong spot. It should be pages dashboard like that, which will be eventually overwritten by the minified version right here, right there. So we should do the same thing for the home as well. So public dist pages home like that. And so these shouldn't even be here. So let's go ahead and run the build again and make sure that that works. Okay, good. Everything still looks good. And then if we go here, it's only these two, and that's correct. And then we have our separate page modules for the individual CSS and the minified JavaScripts for each individual page. Let's figure out what's going on with the jQuery import. I'm going to pause the video while I figure this out, and then hopefully we'll track it down real soon. Alrighty, it's a very, very careless mistake on my part. I have these paths under the type attribute, which should obviously be the src attribute. So, strike one for me. So src. However, it is good practice to have all of these as type text JavaScript. Alrighty. We are back in business. Cool beans. Alright, now let's see here. So specific to home page. Okay, so we also had a sidebar partial. Let's restore that because that's better to have that in here. Okay, we are now good to go. So where it says tickets here, oh, that was a top bar. So let's get rid of that too. So the top bar partial. So let's get rid of all this content. Actually, instead of getting rid of it, I'm going to replace the partial with it. Okay. Cool. So hopefully you have that working on your end as well. Let's start configuring this content now specific to our application. So let's see here. Instead of tickets, let's have that say home, right? So that's going to be in the top bar mustache file, partial. And let's go ahead and find where it says tickets. And let's get rid of that. And this should say home. And there it is. Now really what we want to do is have it so that this is dynamically rendered based on the page. So here, this is going to come from the data entry from the route. So you go to the index route, and then we have a config data object already. Let's just say the page is home. But for now, let's just call it test, and make sure that that shows up. And there it is, which means instead we can just call it home, and that'll take care of that. So now we can dynamically render that, and that's good. And let's get rid of these guys. I'm going to leave the search behind, but get rid of these two from the top bar mustache file. So let's see here. Welcome, my account settings. That's going to be this one. We're going to leave that behind. That is this LI drop-down menu. So if we scroll up a little bit, we'll see this one right here, right there. And hi, how are you? What about our next meeting? This guy right here. So this whole row will be removed. Let's get rid of that right now. So that starts right here in the top bar mustache. And let's get rid of that. Save it, reload. That's gone. Let's do the same thing on the next one. Better. Okay, we'll leave that behind for now. Okay, let's get rid of these. Let's call that recent topics or recent activity. How's that? So that's going to be in our index mustache. So that's going to be over here, manage tickets. So recent activity. Let's get rid of these 4 blocks. So that looks like it's going to be these, or no, these right here, this row right here. And then let's get rid of the container div right there. And that should get rid of those 4 blocks. Okay, show 10. These, let's not worry about it. Let's just leave the default. So, okay. Data tables length. Okay, let's see here. So to make this easier to navigate through, I'm going to remove basically all of these entries except for maybe 2, because right now there's so much content on this table. It's just hard to navigate through. So let's go ahead and start getting rid of a lot of these. So each one of these TR rows right here is an entry. So 3, 6, 5, 2. If we start here and get rid of it all the way down to this closing TR, issue 3652, which is right here, or maybe it's 3562. One of those 2 will be gone. So they're all the same. All right. Well, anyway, let's just go ahead and start cleaning this up because it's so much content. It's just hard to sort of navigate through this theme, which is one of the sort of downsides of a robust theme, is there's just so much that it just takes a while just to even get through it all. So let's go ahead and get rid of a lot of this. Okay. And then let's see what that leaves behind. All right, get rid of a couple more. Okay, so we're down to these last two. That's good for now. Alrighty. So here are the headers. ID requested by. Sheesh, there's a lot of stuff on this table. Okay, I mean, that's good for now. So these are going to be recent topics posted in the entire project. So let's see here. The assignee row, let's not worry about that. This will be, let's go with room. Instead of ID, this will be room. So ID should be room, right? And that could be like politics or fashion. So politics. Fashion. Okay. Yeah, we don't want this at all. So due date and action. So okay, so I'm going to get a little bit more familiar with this because there's a lot of things that I did not anticipate. So I'm going to pause this video while I get a little bit more comfortable with the nuances of all this, so you don't have to watch me get through all this, and then we'll pick it up from there. So bear with me. All right, so that was a little bit easier than I thought. So basically what it comes down to is that this table that we're looking at is a specific type of table, giving it lots of data manipulation capability from a jQuery library. And usually what that means is there's an ID that the jQuery library is looking for, and then it'll impose all of these sort of features on the table. In this case, that table is the data table ID. So if I remove that, then the table becomes a normal table. It's just a regular table now, which is exactly what we want. If you look at the imports down here, you'll see that this is how I made that distinction. So another way we could have done the same thing is by just getting rid of this, right? Saying it'll have the same effect, just getting rid of this script altogether, and it will not activate the data table. Either way is fine. And then you just have a regular table. So now we can just reason about the table like a normal one. So what we're going to do next is we're going to get rid of this action dropdown. Oh, we definitely don't want the assignee, so let's get rid of that. So we have assignee. Which is this guy right here. Test. There. Okay, so we don't want that. And let's get rid of the assignee row over here. And then let's do the second row as well, right here. Better. And then room. profile. So requested by is going to be posted by. Subject will be topic, and this is to reflect the name of the resource that we're using, so it's called topics on the back end. So we're going to just create the same sort of, use the same vocabulary. Created date and due date. Well, we definitely don't need the due date. I think that's pretty obvious. Let's get rid of that. And let's get rid of that entire column. Okay. And then let's see here. Gonna check the inspector. Gonna see if there is a no. Okay, never mind. Room posted by topic. Let's just call it date here. This should be a hyperlink. Okay, we don't want that color though, so let's do style color red. Sure, why not? Let's go with that for now. Okay, these JavaScript calls on the avatar don't do anything, so let's just get rid of those. We don't need two of these. Let's go with priority. Let's get rid of status. So I got rid of these two. And instead of priority, because that doesn't really make sense within the context of our application, let's go with replies. 5, 15, 12. We'll leave this behind for now. I'm not really sure what I'm going to do with it, but I kind of like that drop down, so I might use it later. But so far this is a little bit more consistent with our project's purpose. So that'll be good for that. Now what we want to do is, let's see here, we're going to convert this. I'm just going to tighten this up a little bit. Okay. Okay, good. So now what we want to do next is we're going to render these posts, these topics, from data that's being fed into the route. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to create some static data. So recent topics, which is going to be an array of JSON objects. So let's open that up, create our first one. And let's see here, we have room, call it profile, title, num replies, date. So room, profile, num replies, and date. Okay, so politics. Who posted this? This is going to be another JSON object, so username. Let's see here. The Trump image. Just nothing for now. But I made this an object because the poster has a username and an image. That's why we did that. And then March 20th, 2018. And let's do one more. Let's do sports. March 22nd. Pass that in as topics into the data feed like that. And then now we have some data coming from the server, the backend. So we can then take this and iterate through that. So what we want to do now is go in here and we do topics. This is how you iterate through an array in Mustache. And then each one of these rows is the render for one topic. That's kind of why I spent a minute or two tightening it up. So now we can do room. So here we do room. And then there's a profile with a username and an image. So profile, username, username. Gonna leave that alone for now. This is going to be title. Oh, I left that out. Excuse me. So let's fix that. Yeah, the most important part. Should I run in 2020? Will we win the NBA title? Okay, so now we have a title. Let's see. Num replies. Date. Let's see what happens. There we go. All right, great. So now we have that. I like the yellow color here better. So I'm going to change the badge to the yellow color. So let's see here. Warning. So badge warning. And then let's get rid of these two that are currently in the template as static rows. Let's get rid of that. All right, now we are one step closer to dynamic data, so that's very nice. So now, let's see here. So let's let's clean up this sidebar. There's a lot going on here. So I actually like this color better. Let's see. Badge info is what we want. So let's try that instead. Oh, that's good. It's a good color scheme. All right. So now what we want, basically what we're doing is we're preparing our theme for rendering dynamic data. We're just making sure everything looks the way it should when we plug in actual data from the Turbo backend. So let's go ahead and get rid of a lot of this. There's a lot going on here. So this entire bottom section of the sidebar, let's get rid of that. So head over to the sidebar here. So here it is. So starting here, get rid of everything beneath that, all the li tags. Cool. And then there's just a lot going on here. Let's get rid of everything up until where it says email. Okay, definitely more manageable. Instead of dashboard, let's call it home. And this should link to the home page. All right, we'll leave that badge there for now. All right, good. Now it's starting to look a little bit more like our app is eventually going to look. Let's see here. These breadcrumbs, I don't think we really. Yeah, let's change that a little bit. That's going to be in the top bar mustache, so it's going to be over here. Let's just leave one behind. Okay. All right. Okay, so let's start configuring this with our custom data. So obviously this Maxine Kennedy, that is built into the theme, and that should be rendering the logged in user, right? So let's see if anyone's logged in right now in the local host. So we have, if we go to our routes, we have an auth route and a current user route. So we do auth current user, and no one is logged in right now. So let's go ahead and log somebody in. So what we want to do is go check out our views, and we have an index mustache, which is probably where we had our login route. So let's see here. We have an auth and a post handler for a login route. And what we have here is on the Turbo dashboard, I probably have a handful of sample users from before, from part 1 of the series. So we have a couple users on the back end that I can log in as. Hopefully I remember their passwords. So let's see here. So what I'm going to do is shrink. Wait, let's see here. Okay. Let's try this. If I'm not logged in, this is going to say log in, and then this is going to give me a login username password field. So let's see what happens there. So that would be this guy right here. So what I'm going to do for now is create another li tag and just copy and paste that. So it's going to show up twice now, right? And then I'm going to use this one for logging people in. So login. Okay, and then we don't need an image for that. Okay. Let's get rid of all the stuff in the drop-down menu, and let's shove in a login form and see what happens. Input. Gonna add a little bit of padding right here, not too much. So let's try 6px. Okay, and then let's do a style background. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, I think I'm gonna make this padding a little bit bigger. Go with 8px. We have our username, password. Let's create a space right there. Yeah, instead of a space, I'm just going to do margin bottom 8px. The reason being it creates a consistent spacing all around, so I think it just looks nicer. And then we want to do the same thing here. And then let's see here. Okay, so now we have a login prompt. Okay, very simple, obviously nothing too sophisticated. And then here, we're going to add a ID, btn login, and then we're going to add some IDs here. Login username, login password. Alrighty. And then we're going to connect some actions to these guys. So let's go to the index mustache and let's go all the way down here and let's create a script. And we're going to run this script on the page load like that. It's a good idea to just run a quick test, right? Make sure it works. So I'm going to open the console, make sure you see that. I do. So now I can bind some stuff to this guy. So we have button login. Let's go ahead and bind some click handlers to that. So we do have jQuery connected, so let's go ahead and use that, and then let's go ahead and add a click handler, and then let's it's going to take an event. We want to prevent it from going through because it'll submit the form, which we actually don't want right now because we want to do some simple validation. And then let's do a quick console log here. Log in. Right, and then let's reload that guy. And let's see what happens. There we go. All right. Now let's grab the credentials. And it's going to be username and password. And those will come from these input values. So and then we can just console log that. It is a JSON object, so you have to stringify it. Credentials. And let's see what we get. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And there it is. Okay, so that was successfully captured. And then let's go ahead and do some quick validation. So if credentials username length equals 0, username, and then password, your password, and then let's console log that. Please enter your username. Whoops, forgot my username. Password. Whoops, forgot my password. And there it is. Okay. I'm just going to capitalize this. It seems to be a better way to capture the user's attention. All right, so now we're ready to actually log in. So let me look at one of the other pages where we did a similar thing. Jquery. Yeah, I guess we didn't. We just used regular forms. Okay, so let's use we're going to use an Ajax call here. So here, we want to send an Ajax request to our backend with the credentials to log into log in the user. And don't forget, we have an auth route for this specific purpose, specifically auth login, where we handle all the session stuff already. That was all taken care of. So what we're going to do next is we're going to create an Ajax request. So I'm going to do that from a previous project because I always forget the exact structure behind Ajax. So let me find one real quick. Probably in the restaurant example again. So okay, so here is a generic Ajax post request. So take a minute to, well, let me just tweak this first. So auth login, and then we want to pass in the credentials. And then let's, for now, just console log the data that's returned. And that's it. So this is a pretty generic Ajax request. It just points to the auth login route that we set up in video 1. It's going to be a post request because if you recall, the auth login route takes it as a post. So that's why we're doing a post request. We pass in the credentials, username, password. And that's these two things right here. And then we have our callbacks. Very straightforward, very simple. Just make sure that you have this as well. So pause the video and make sure you have that. But now we're ready to test it out. So here I'm going to test some failure scenarios on purpose. So I'm going to pass in a user who doesn't exist and see what we get. Confirmation fail, user not found. Very nice. So we have that's exactly what we want. The data has a confirmation key, which is going to be success or fail. So what we want to do is make sure that it is success, and if it's not, we should throw an error like that. So now we can test the same error situation, and it should give us an alert that's human readable, that's presented to the user. So then we do that, user not found. Sweet. So that worked. And then let's go to our Turbo dashboard, and let's find a user that does exist, and then let's see if we can induce the wrong password error. So we have Blake Griffin here. I'm going to try and log in as Blake Griffin and put in the wrong password. Incorrect password. Very nice. And then let's try last but not least. Hopefully this is the right password. Oh no. All right. So let's try LeBron James. Cavaliers. Cavaliers. Oh no. Okay, so I got one, Steph Curry. Okay, so here is the success scenario. So now it'll give you the user that you've logged in as, and the ID and all that stuff. So that's good. So one thing that's good about Turbo is that even if I forget the password, I can't go in here and find it. Turbo protects passwords by default. So even though this is my project, I can't go in and find the password on like a database lookup, because then that would be a security risk for users. So I just have to guess. Or the alternative would be to create a whole new user, which we'll get to that probably in the next video. So now I'm currently logged in as Steph Curry. If I reload the auth current user route, I am logged in as Steph Curry. So now what I'm going to do is on the success, I'm going to redirect the window location href for now back to the home page. We may change that later, but for now that's what it's going to do. So here I'm going to log in as Steph Curry again. And it'll just redirect back to the home page. Now, here's why I did that. This UI is going to be different based on whether or not you're logged in or not logged in, because we don't want this showing up both all the time. So what we want to do is we want to go to our index route, and we want to get the current user in the index route. So if we go to our auth route, we can go and get the current user if it exists. So these two situations in the current user route are if there's no one logged in. So here, what I'm going to do is check the session, and if no one's logged in, I just render it like so. Basically what we've been doing the whole time, right? This is the situation currently. Now if a user is logged in, I'm going to fetch that user, and I'm going to render on the error scenario. I'm going to render just the usual home page with nothing. But here, when the user is logged in, I'm going to update the config with the user key and pass in the user data. So basically, if the user is logged in, the data of that user, this data right here, will be passed through as the user key to the config object thereby giving us access to the user key in our templates. So here's what I mean by that. Let me just go ahead and reload the home page real quick, make sure nothing broke along the way. So now here, we don't want both of these showing up every single time. Obviously, we want this one showing up if the user's logged in, and this one showing up if the user's not logged in. So what we want to do is go to our partials, and this is going to be in our top bar. So let's see here. Here is the login, and here is the user. Okay, so if the user is logged in, so that would be like this. User. So this effectively acts as a conditional in Mustache. This will only be rendered if the user is not logged in. Excuse me. And then the user key is what I'm referencing right here. If this user key is not null, this template, portion of the template will be rendered. And we can really confirm that by doing user.username. And since I am logged in as Steph Curry, when I log the home page now, I should see Steph Curry, which is exactly what I do. If I go and open this in another browser, say I open this in Safari and I try it again, this time it'll only give me the login piece because I'm not logged in. So now that's good, that's successful, right? So now what we want to do is we want to get rid of this for the logged in user. So I'm gonna do something here. I'm going to add a config. To the config, I'm going to add, let's see, logged in false. And that'll be the default, right? And then when the user is logged in, I'm going to delete that config. Okay, and then, so now if the user is not logged in, there is an additional key called logged in, which is set to false, right? So now what we can do is we can use that conditional. So down here, we do logged in, and we render the login form only if the user is not logged in. That has to be an object, evidently. So instead of false boolean, I'm going to make it a string. There we go. All right. And look at that. So here I am currently logged in as Steph Curry, and I see only Steph Curry. Here I'm not logged in as anyone. So I see the login form. And that's what we want. Everything, that's exactly the behavior we're looking for. And then if I'm going to go back here inside the top bar mustache, and I'm going to make that last logout one connected. So logout right here should be auth logout, and then if inside the auth logout route, instead of returning JSON, I am going to redirect to the home page. That way when I log out, it'll go back to the home page, but this will say login. And there we go. And then if I log back in, Steph Curry, back to the home page where my username shows up. And that's good for now. We're going to add more to this later, but now we have some state management. Oh, before I forget, let's go ahead and deploy this guy. Make sure it works on staging, obviously. So like before, I will pause the video while it deploys. Okay, deployment is up. Here is the staging link. Excuse me. So if I go back to the staging link, I'm probably not logged in, right? Because I didn't log in on staging at any point, and so I'm seeing the proper UI of a non-logged in visitor. And that's good. That's what we want. And let's go ahead and log in now. So Steph Curry. And now I'm redirected to the home page as the logged in user, as you can see from the username. And this is certainly on staging, so we can confirm that this is working live. If I reload the UI, or if I just open a whole new tab, I'm still logged in as you would expect. Otherwise, what's the point, right? And then here, if I try this on a different browser, not logged in. So very nice. Everything worked. Hopefully, you got it working on your end. We got through a lot in this video. It's starting to look more and more like the final project is going to look, as well as the configuration is more consistent with the data that we're going to use in the project. So hopefully you got that working as well, and I'll catch you in the next video.